Welcome to the Randy Selzer Real Estate Podcast, where we discuss important topics for buyers, sellers, and investors in the Toronto area real estate market. Here's your host, Randy Selzer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It's Randy Selzer here. We have a special guest today, Anthony Woods, who is a consultant with Chartwell Retirement, is joining us today, and we're going to talk about retirement living. And I've been through this with my own parents, with my own mom, where you get to a point in your life, and you may have owned a house your entire life, but you get to a point where you start to think that maybe it's a little bit too much, and too much to manage, more space than you need, that kind of thing. So a lot of people are looking at retirement homes, and there's different categories of this, which we're going to talk about today. But first of all, Anthony, welcome to the YouTube broadcast and the podcast. It's nice to have you on board. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me, Randy. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. We talked a little bit a couple of months ago about doing this, and I know you've been in this industry for a while. And well, first of all, introduce yourself. I've known you for a little while, but just let us know who you are.
Yeah, my name's Anthony. I am the retirement living consultant for Chartwell Glen Retirement Residences. So we are a seniors community in the heart of Meadowvale, Mississauga. I've been here for just over 2 years, bordering 3.
Okay.
I've worked in retirement living for, close to a decade now in plenty of different roles in Manitoba and now, of course, in Ontario. It's been a blast. I think through the pandemic specifically, it's really shown myself and my colleagues, like, this is why we're here. This is why we're really here. It's been pretty interesting, pretty challenging, but it's honestly been an honor and a privilege to be able to serve people through this. It's been pretty powerful stuff.
We're going to talk about COVID too, because that's a very interesting topic these days. And man, I don't know if we're ever going to be done with this. Like, now they're saying it's spiking again in Europe, spiking in Russia, spiking in Germany. I mean, is there going to be a 5th wave? I just don't know what we're going to.
You never know. Maybe we're just in it now, and this is the way we're living. But I think I see something on the horizon. On Friday, we just had our booster clinic in, so all of the residents that wanted their booster shot were able to get it. Very well taken, very, very successful. And I think a lot of our frontline staff are next on the docket to get their booster, which is really good. Powerful.
It is good. I'm not going to, I never get into politics, and I never talk religion, but to me, anybody who politicizes getting a vaccination, who is anti-science, I just don't understand them. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's great to hear. Good for you and good for the residents. That's a fantastic, positive thing to be doing. Okay, so sort of as a preamble, we're just going to talk today. Because I do get, again, I'm a little bit older demographic, and a lot of my clients, although I deal with millennials and first-time buyers as well, but a lot of my clients are people who I've known for years, who I may have sold a house to 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And they're getting to that point. Some of them are over 50, some of them are over 60, where they're starting to look around. I know I went through it with my own mom, who had problems with her knees. Her arthritis was bad. She couldn't do the stairs. And then she started to have a little bit of memory loss, and we were getting concerned about her. So we looked around, and I know there's different options. I mean, I talk to people all the time where they're saying, well, we're not sure, what should we do? Should we keep the house? Should we? And there are a lot of people out there that, man, they're going to stay in that house till you'd have to drag them out on a stretcher. Like, it doesn't matter how old they are. That's their house. They don't care that they have to mow a gigantic front lawn or, shovel the snow in a gigantic driveway. They're going to stay. But a lot of people are looking at around, and there are options out there. I mean, people can move into a condo. That's a possibility. People can sell the house. And again, we're talking, a lot of people these days have a big net worth because they bought the house years ago when prices were so low in hindsight. And now they're selling them for $1 million plus. And so they've got lots of equity. There's lots of things that they can do. Or some people, I know one couple, good clients of mine, who just went into a rental. That's what they wanted to do. They don't want the hassle. They don't want the responsibility of worrying about repairs. So they're in a rental. And then, of course, we have retirement living, and there are differences for people who have not looked into this. If you haven't had an older or a parent or somebody that you have to look into, there's different categories of retirement living. There's a simple retirement residence where people are still pretty mobile. They've got their marbles, they're still in pretty good shape. They want to stay active. They want to go swimming and have activities to do, go out perhaps with other people to do different things. And then you get into a different category, which is like a nursing home, where people are maybe not able to look after themselves. And there's different grades of that, where there's certain people where, they can still wash themselves, or they can still go downstairs to the restaurant, but it gets worse and worse, where eventually they need full-time care, where they need a nurse in there to help them do everything. So I just thought it might be great to talk a little bit about these differences, so the people listening in can get some clarity, because a lot of people haven't thought about this. So Anthony, I'm going to turn it over to you. I tend to ramble on a lot. Just tell me to shut up if I go on too much.
Honestly, it's okay. And it's a good intro to a really good question, because we get this all the time,
Sure.
and it mostly just kind of starts with, where do I start? Like, where do I go?
Right.
I can't tell you how many times somebody's come in through the front doors or has just picked up the phone and has been in utter distress. They have no idea where to turn to.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, a lot of that comes from the fact that maybe mom or dad, or maybe if they're able to call themselves, it comes with a need. And it comes with something, maybe a life change that happened. But when you look into a lot of retirement residences, the reality is, if you move into a retirement residence, it's because you want to. Maybe there's a bit of a backstory there. Maybe there's a need to get away from your current situation of, shoveling the driveway, cutting the grass, preparing meals, doing housekeeping, not necessarily having a doctor or any medical staff that's really close by if you need. But generally speaking, if you're moving to a place like Chartwell Heritage Glen, it's because you want to, and because you find the value in being around a community of people that are like-minded and able-bodied, just like yourself. And, moving from that, you get some assistance with activities of daily living. So to clarify some of the different levels, as you put it, you could start out even before a retirement residence with seniors apartments, and true seniors apartments being maybe just an apartment building that caters specifically to 55 plus.
Right.
There might be some services, there might not be. Even possible that you're going to be subsidized for some way. And in those particular cases, there's a very long wait list.
I can believe it. So those places, they would have, for example, their own kitchen.
They would have their own kitchen.
Okay,
and
got it.
Then bridging to a place like Chartwell Heritage Glen, which is considered independent supportive living, and as a retirement residence, we cater specifically to individuals that are at a much more independent stage of their senior life. All of our suites, for example, also have full kitchens and balconies. The benefit when you walk in the front door is that you can get all of the peace of mind things that you need for life coming from a nurse or personal support worker, or even an emergency pendant that responds in-house. You can get all of the fun you can get out of a recreational program. You can have some of the activities done for you to help out with daily living, but at the same time, you don't have to give up cooking. You don't have to give up the meals that you want. Caters to a much more independent senior. Now, having said that, we have people that walk in through our door all the time that participate in our meals, and they love it. They can do 1 meal a day, 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, or none whatsoever.
So it's optional. There's some options that they can sign up for or not sign up for.
Yeah, and that happens to be at ours. Now, if you're speaking to like just Chartwell, if we're focusing on retirement residences, there happens to be a lot of other options. I can think of Chartwell Roberts Becker Regency that cater typically to a senior who needs a little bit more assistance than we traditionally offer as part of the base package. So we've looked at seniors apartments, 55 plus. We've looked at retirement residences. Then there's going to be long-term care. But before that, there might be a couple things in between time. You might be looking at convalescent care. You might be looking at memory care or memory living. You might also look at assisted living. Assisted living would provide a higher level, maybe the highest level of home and community care that's offered prior to a person going into long-term care. So I've covered everything that is private before long-term care, which is largely public. That is where you get into the long wait lists. So when a person needs long-term care, they need extended support, possibly monitoring, maybe on an hourly or daily basis.
Nurses are right outside the door.
Absolutely. And you've paid taxes to
Right.
afford this opportunity. The
Right.
challenge is a person doesn't get on the long-term care list soon enough when they need it. Or sometimes they get into it because of a crisis and they need a bed pretty immediately. So long-term care is going to be where you have the wait list. Everything else before then doesn't traditionally have too long of a wait list. So
Okay.
here's what some of your clients and some of the people listening might need to know, and they might benefit from learning, is that you have the opportunity to shop around. The ball is absolutely in your court to do the tours you need to do and the investigations you need to do with the retirement residences that you think would suit you, because you need to make this choice for you. You're still on a want stage. You don't need to move, but you might want to.
Yeah, I would imagine. And I know, again, the older they get, the longer it takes for them to make a decision. And that's okay. That's just life.
It's emotional.
I have one guy I've been talking to in Clarkson now for at least about 6 or 7 years. And he keeps teasing me. He's like, we're going to sell the house. We're going to sell the house. We're going to go into a retirement home. They still haven't sold the house. He calls me at least twice a year. God bless him. But they will make that decision sooner or later. I know it. And,
it's an interesting topic that we get all the time. And I think maybe I've cracked the code for a lot of individuals. It is the idea that it's not necessarily the house, it's what the house comes with. It's the idea that you were a person who worked very, very hard to purchase this house. Right. You own it. It's a sense of pride for you. And by selling it, you may be giving up some perceived form of independence, which in your mind could be completely true. But I like to let people know when they walk in through the front doors here, you're not giving up any independence by being at Chartwell Heritage Glen. And then the other part of selling it is you're selling memories.
Yes, I've been through that where I've sold a house. One in particular sticks in my mind, where we did a very successful sale of this house in Etobicoke. And the minute we finished, the wife started crying. And I was flabbergasted. And she was really crying. I said, what's the matter? She says, oh, it's just all the memories I have for this house. Our kids grew up here. And that's a very real thing. I was shocked by it, but I get it now. I do understand.
We're not care providers here. We are assuming a high level of responsibility. Right. And when folks walk through this front door, I'm very aware of the memories they think that they're giving them up. And I always let people know, I'm not going to take the place of your late husband or wife. I'm not here to take the place of your family. That's not what I'm here to do. All those memories and that family you can bring with you. And hopefully in the process, we're going to help you make some new. We have kitchens here. We have a beautiful building, right? We have a lot of things going on, but that is not what we sell, so to speak. So we're selling the value through the lifestyle and the community. That's what people need, especially during COVID.
Okay. So I would think one of the questions you would get is if, let's say it's a couple, it could be two people, and they have an option. They know they want to sell the house because if they don't want to deal with maintenance anymore, they don't want to deal with snow and all that stuff. They want to go into either a rental apartment or they might like just strict rental, or they might consider moving into a retirement residence like Chartwell. And if they came to you and said, okay, Anthony, what's the difference? You know, what would we get by going to Chartwell as opposed to just a simple rental apartment?
Yeah.
What would your answer be for that?
I just had somebody walk in here today and we had this exact conversation. Like and she answered it for me, and it reinforces what I already know to be true, but I like to hear it from that person. She's been living in a condo for I'd say 4 years and moved in, and 2 of those years were great. She knew everybody in the building in a short period of time. And then of course, something we always talk about as we do on podcasts and things we listen to nowadays is COVID hit. And she doesn't have any sense of connection with anybody in the building anymore. Now, I don't know when that's coming back or if it's coming back. All I know is it exists. And connection has been lost. And if you come through these doors and you're living here, your family, our family is your family, and we're all one big happy family, and we provide a sense of community here. Now, having said that, if they're interested in selling their home and going directly to let's say a rental apartment with no added services, one, if you factor in all the additional extras that we're providing as a service, we're basically going to mirror costs, because if you were to be at your apartment and then you were to contract out all of those additional services that we would offer, you're looking at the exact same cost anyway. To add, we're already in the building. So we're providing you enhanced peace of mind by the fact that we're right there in the event of an emergency. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, but it is important.
So if I'm reading you right then, so yes, the costs are a little bit higher than a simple rental, but there's value added there. You're going to get a lot more
100% value added through the sense of community, through the recreation, through the staffing, and the fact that you have a lot of extra services at your disposal. Other main element I would talk with through this fictional couple, as you mentioned, that may or may not be clients of yours currently, is, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing here. I'll just get rid of it. Is the fact that you have two choices. You can move to a just a simple rental right now, and you can come back to me in 3 years, or you can skip that move and just come straight to me, knowing that you're probably going to get some services that are going to come at least close to balancing out. The advantages here is that you can actually make some good friends and build some solid relationships.
I get it. Whereas in an apartment building, the demographic, if it's just a basic apartment, may be completely different. For the other tenants there, they may be completely different background. They may not even speak the same language. It could be at the different ages, young, old. Whereas when they're going into a retirement residence, chances are they're going to be able to relate a bit better than they.
There's serious value in being comfortable in your own skin. And you're going to see a lot of individuals in this building that come from very different walks of life. So there's an added part, right? There's an added value in that, and in the idea that you're at home right now and maybe you're not comfortable with the idea of starting to use a walker. And maybe it's a better idea for you to start using one, but you're a little resistant. I can't tell you how many times folks have come through the front door and they'll never use a walker. And then within 2 weeks, they happen to see how comfortable people are with using it and how much safer it is. And before you know it, they're using a walker every day.
So you have support staff on site. You've got nurses there. Are there doctors on staff, or would they have to go to the hospital if there was a serious event?
Well, I mean, of course, we cannot take the place.
Or if
of
someone,
to
the walker, let's say someone had a fall. They just had a fall in the bathroom. They think they're okay, but what would you do in a situation like that? Would you get them checked out, or would have?
Good question.
Yeah.
And it's serious, and we do take it seriously. We do have nurses here 7 days a week, and then we have 24-hour guest attendants. They're personal support workers, but we call them guest attendants. Whenever anybody moves in, we would give them a personal pendant so that in the event of an emergency, they can push it, right? And we'll be able to tend to them right away. So the advantage is that when a person has that in home, they push that. What normally happens is it sends out an alert system. Before you know it, there's 2 paramedics and 4 firefighters in the house. Well, maybe it wasn't as big of a deal.
Right.
Granted, it can be. I mean, we assume it's going to be a big deal going into it, right? We got to stay on our toes. It's serious business. But in that particular case, they can push the pendant, and we will come and assess the situation immediately.
Do you guys allow pets? If someone has a cat or a dog, a small dog, do you allow that in the building?
We do, yeah. So well kept. I mean, I guess small would be the best way to put it. Small dogs, but mostly just well kept dogs. There might be some medium sized ones that are in this building right now, but they're so friendly. So yes, dogs, cats, birds.
That's very important for some people. I know. Okay, so that sounds really good, and that's the first level. So if someone, they're still physically fit, they're well enough, they drive, they've got a car, they're independent enough. What happens then if there is some deterioration over a few years? You start to see, well, maybe that eyesight's going, they can't drive anymore. Maybe they're starting to get memory loss, or maybe some dementia or stuff like that happens. What happens then? Do they have to be assessed by somebody and perhaps upgraded to a different level of care? How does that work?
Well, it's a good question, and one that I would say one of the biggest concerns that folks come in here in the front door asking about, what happens in the future, because it's a double-edged sword. You want everything to be under one roof, but at the same time, a person moving here doesn't want to move into a hospital type facility They,
Of course
they,
not.
they want to be around like-minded, independent people. So
Right.
you can't have it both ways.
Right.
But as part of moving into any retirement residence, us included anywhere in Ontario, is
Yep.
we do go through a bit of a medical process where we have to get a medical form sent in from their family physician. We have to review it, right?
Okay.
We have to assess it and make sure that we are the right fit, first of all.
Okay. Okay.
So that continues every 6 months as they've come in, regardless of anything happening. So not if there's been the baseline has remained exactly the same, we're doing that regardless. To add to that, if there's been a major life change, we're also doing it at that point. We can continue to monitor a person's progression, and as a lifestyle change happens and a need happens, we can add services to their portfolio of services so that they can remain as comfortable here as long as possible.
Okay.
Then sometimes it does get to the point where maybe we're not the right fit anymore.
At that point,
We have a very well-respected conversation with either that resident or a family member who can speak on their behalf about what the future holds. Let's figure out how to get there. Let's go through a long-term care list, or let's go through what memory care or memory assist looks like. But also, can we maybe bring in some services here to help a person stay here for as long as possible?
Yep.
When it inevitably does get to that point, it's not as if we say, okay, you have to go now. You can absolutely remain here as long as need be, as long as we're able to add some services in that it's still a safe lifestyle. And then when the time comes and you need to go to, let's say, long-term care, it's usually pretty quick and pretty sudden. We react pretty quick and pretty sudden.
So that would be then to a different facility altogether. They would be transferred over and check in and go to a different facility.
That would be a different facility where it'd be much more of a facility type environment, and they do great things in long-term care. But it would be a completely different environment where there typically is a higher staff to resident ratio, and there's some physical facilities built into the building. So like a Hoyer lift, for example, where a person might have some mobility challenges. Or maybe there's, like I said, a higher staff to resident ratio for those that have some cognitive impairment. And there might be a different set of recreational programs and meals just to cater to a specific.
I'll tell you, the people who work in those long-term care facilities are a special breed. They really are.
Yeah.
They really do care. And it's not an easy job at all, because these people, the old people, become more and more helpless. And it's just not everybody could do that. I'm sure of it. Very
100%.
special people. Very
Heroes.
special people. They are. They really
Heroes.
are. And especially in COVID, now we're dealing with that. So, okay, so you mentioned earlier at the beginning that everybody, I guess, is vaccinated in there, or is it optional, or is that a requirement for someone to enter? Pretty much anybody over 70 these days is vaccinated, I would think. But so that is a requirement for entrance into
No,
Chartwell?
not a requirement for entrance into retirement residence. It is still a choice.
I don't want to get too controversial. We get into
No, it's okay. All of that aside, just focusing on the facts as to what they are from Ontario Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. It is still a choice.
Okay.
And you can have the vaccine or not have the vaccine to live in a condo, which is still technically a community type setting, versus us, which is a community type setting. We're at a very high rate because a lot of our residents would prefer it for their own safety.
Absolutely.
Right? Maybe they're immunocompromised. But having said that, all of our staff right now are 100% vaccinated, right? We're at that level now. So the staff definitely on that end, but from a resident's end, it doesn't happen to be a restriction. I mean, we don't even say we prefer versus not, but if a person is coming in, just as a move-in precaution, there's a different set of steps that we have to follow in order for them to come from their home or apartment to here before, you know what I mean? We can make that happen. And that's just the world we're living in right now. And I'm not sure it'll be this way forever, but
I hope
respect to those that don't get it, or respect to those that do.
I just want to get through this. It's coming up 2 years now. And, I believe that there's the vast majority of people out there, they may not say it outwardly, but a lot of people, I think, are stressed and a little bit depressed over COVID. I really do believe that. And yes, we've done great here in Ontario. The numbers are way down, and a lot of the restrictions have been lifted. But I still get nervous when I see what's happening in other parts of the world. It's not done with us yet. It's still out there.
It'll be here for a bit.
Let's hope we get through this in one piece. That's for sure.
Yeah. Let's just get back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Normal with a mask. That's what it is.
It's the first time I took my mask off today to talk to you, Anthony.
I know. I can actually see your face.
Well, that's very interesting. And again, I deal with this all the time, and people that it's a big decision for most people, especially if they're over 60. It's a big decision to make. You said it earlier that when they have a house that they've lived in for 30 years or more, that's got memories and a lot of stuff attached to it, a lot of emotional attachment. It's not just a house, it's their home. So, but a lot of them, again, they get to that point where they know it's just too much after a while. It really is. It's tough. They can't keep it clean. They can't mow the lawn. They don't want to do the garden anymore, all that kind of stuff. And then they're faced with that choice. So I know for sure, again, we talked just about briefly about the differences between a regular apartment and going into a community where you may have people the same age as you or similar ages to you with similar interests where you can make new friends. What other questions come up when you're interviewing people or they're interviewing you? What are some of the high points that are the big questions that they ask you about coming into a home such as yours?
Yeah, well, obviously, we touched on waitlists.
Right.
Like what does that look like? Is there a wait list?
Okay.
And I mean, I'll say there kind of is, but kind of isn't.
Actually, I learned something from you today. So the wait list that we hear about and we read about in the newspaper, that's more for the long-term care facilities. Those are the ones with the 6-month wait list and then if you turn it down, you go back to the bottom of the list and this kind of thing, you have to wait another 6 months. But for your type,
it's their specific process. For us, I might have a wait list, and to be fair, I currently do, but it's for individuals who have very specific requests of their suite type in their package. Mostly their suite type. I want a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom that is facing X way, and it has to be this floor or below, and it has to be available between March and July. Can see the choice that a person has prior to moving in. So they're kind of creating a wait list for themselves because I can't make a suite like that pop up.
These are like my customers. Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
they want it. They want it. And that's exactly what they want.
And they should be there. They should be picky. They've earned it. They've earned the right to be that way because they've earned that income in order to afford it. Right. So, I mean, waitlist is one that we always get. Like you mentioned, do we accept pets? Meals, right? What kind of meals do you do? Here, that we provide meals by a very well-trained professional kitchen.
Do you guys do special meals? Like if somebody's a vegetarian or somebody wants a kosher meal or something, do you supply those kind of special meals, or is it one size fits all kind of thing?
Well, as part of the move-in process, every single person that moves in gets a meeting with all of the different leaders within this building. One of those happens to be our chef. The chef will sit down and speak with the person who's on a meal plan to go over the ins and outs of what their dietary needs are and how we can work around those, and how also they're going to have to work around our menu a little bit too, to help point them in the right direction. Kosher is a bit of a tough one, because we don't have that something as an option in-house, but there are plenty of options that, I mean, you can go to the grocery store. See, that's the other thing, right? If you're living a kosher lifestyle and you want to be in a retirement residence,
just an example. That's all.
No, but it's a great question because it has come up. Absolutely.
Okay.
But almost every major product and major provider provides a kosher option now. So you want to be in a retirement residence or halal, we have a full kitchen. There's nothing stopping you from making kosher meals in your suite here. There's nothing stopping you from making halal meals and getting those catered in here.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Meals we have to get, like you said, pets we often get. Pricing, of course, that's something we touch on a lot, and that's all based on the individual and what their care plan is going to offer.
Right.
COVID, we get a lot of questions about right now. What has your performance been? How are you managing it currently? But not as much anymore. So, I don't know if we want to touch upon price. I know ballpark, you mentioned that but by the time you factor in all the sort of added value that's provided, it's pretty similar to what you would pay in rent. Well, you get for a basic rented apartment. If you were to look at like a rental for a 1-bedroom in the local area, you could be looking at, $1,800 or $1,900.
Big time.
Maybe if you get lucky, maybe a little bit less if you get like a basement apartment, right?
But you don't want your seniors living in a basement, So yeah, you're absolutely right. For
No, that's exactly it.
a one
And then
bedroom,
typically you
18,
might have to,
1900 in Mississauga, and it's going up.
Yeah.
It's going up because the
Absolutely.
rental demand is coming back big time.
100%.
Okay.
And then moving from that, what are your energy bills like at that apartment?
Right.
Do you get any facilities built in? Do you get cable, right? Do you get housekeeping? Do you get, what do you really get for that? So at Heritage Glen, we have a starting rate at $21.65 per month. And it can go up there, much like anything else in life, but that is our starting rate. And we do happen to have a suite available right now at that rate.
Okay.
So you're looking, right? You look at, let's say, 1,800 to 2,167. You're looking at what, 367 per month? So you got our suite with all energy bills associated are included, Rogers digital cable, housekeeping, all maintenance fees associated with it. Access to all of our recreational activities and our shuttle bus to take you to and from local medical appointments and grocery shops and other excursions. And all of the amenity suites that are in the house.
Not bad.
And then you start to factor in the fact that, you get access to our full health and wellness team. You get the emergency pendant. You have access to all of our management staff, and you even have your own concierge at the front desk to drop off your mail and communicate things for you. Then we can follow up with other things to help you out with your daily activities of living. Starts to balance out pretty easily, right?
It's not bad at all. Really, when you realize what's included. Because you're right. It's the cost of living, all the other stuff beyond a basic rent that someone might pay in an apartment.
And that's just bill to bill. We're not even factoring the idea that you are going to make a lifelong friend here for sure, and the sense of community provided being around like-minded people every single day, right? There's that additional element, which is the true value in being in a community like this.
Do you guys have parking? So if people come in, they have an automobile, there's parking spots available?
Absolutely, above ground and below ground.
Okay, good.
A little bit of both. Yeah.
There's options open to people. I'm telling you, when they get over, not so much over 50, but over 60 for sure, when they start thinking about what should they do next. And
well, to illustrate an idea of how busy this world can be, from the time I got here today until now, I've spoken with over 20 people, and I've had 4 individuals come in for a tour of our building, and I'm still going right after this. So
thank you for giving up some of your time on the busy day to talk to me. I appreciate
you've been pretty nice and pretty generous speaking with me and offering up the opportunities. So I was looking forward to meeting today.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah,
and we should do it again sometime.
Anybody that's listening, just want to let you know, my philosophy has always been on this and always will be is I know in the conversations that I'll have with people, I'm not going to be the difference maker, and our building is not going to be the difference maker on whether a person is going to actually sell their house or not, right? I'm here to provide the option, and I absolutely implore people to make the best possible decision for themselves. All I always ask is they come in through the front doors with an open mind. Forget about the idea that they ever have to move. Pretend that it doesn't have to exist, and just look at it for what it is if they did move. And if they can bring that mindset with them to the tour, and they can come in with an open mind, they can evaluate it truly. They can at least then leave and say, okay, you know what? I think I should move in versus, hey, not for me right now. Either way, I'll be okay. But as long as folks come in here with an open mind, that's all we can ask for.
Well, Anthony, I'm going to put your contact information underneath the YouTube video so people can reach you, and also on the podcast. And for those of you watching this on YouTube today, if you like what you heard today, give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel, and hit that bell notification button so you'll get notified every time we do another video. And thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. And I wish you well. Next time I'm up your way, let's go for a coffee. We'll keep in touch.
Pleasure, Randy. We'll talk soon for sure.
No problem. So thanks for being on the podcast and the video today.
You're very welcome.
Okay. Anthony Woods, thanks again for talking today, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
We'll see you soon, Randy.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.